could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Steelers, Giants. This game was a lot more competitive than I thought it was going to be. Hats off to the Giants. Look, I've said this already. I don't think the Giants are going to be a very good team this year. However, they competed tonight, and I thought Joe Judge brought a different energy to the sidelines and a different energy to this team. The Steelers, they looked off, but Ben Roethlisberger hasn't played, and they chronicled this throughout the telecast, in almost a full calendar year. Okay, I think they said either today or tomorrow would be exactly 365 days since the injury was occurred a year ago. So you knew he was going to be rusty, and he said he was going to be nervous. He looked nervous. I mean, those first 3 or 4 possessions were cringeworthy. Okay, at one point he was expecting to get hit. He ran up into the pocket and actually ran towards the sack instead of running from it. His passes were very erratic, but he settled in. They tried to run the ball early to really get them going, and it wasn't effective early in the game. They were going to have to throw it against this Giants defense, and eventually they were able to do that. And I thought it was the 2-minute drive that really kicked them into gear, as they talked about on the telecast. But it was a slow start for the Steelers. You get Deontay Johnson muffing a punt that gave the Giants great field position. Really, to be honest with you, this defense of the Steelers was the reason that they won this football game. We can talk about the offense getting on its horse towards the end of the first half and into the second half, but without this defense stepping up in the first half to give the offense an opportunity to get their act together, they might not have been in the game to begin with. After that muff punt, they got the football first and goal inside the 10-yard line, and somehow the defense stiffens and forces the Giants to have to settle for a chip shot field goal. You look at the way that they gave up the big play. They could have folded after that, the big play to Steve Slayton. Instead, they bounced back, and really the game plan and the focal point was, hey, let's stop Saquon Barkley. That's the only way they're going to beat us. I've never seen Saquon Barkley, and I've seen him bottled up before. I've never seen him bottled up the way the Steelers absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. And you could argue that they dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides, because Benny Snell went over 100 in this game and was dominant. And that's a testament to the 5 guys that were in front of him, and the tight ends too. Don't want to leave them out in the run game. But on the opposite side, this was the most dominant performance I've seen of any team stopping the run in week 1. And I'll take it a step further. This is the most dominant performance I've seen a team have against Saquon Barkley individually. His first 7 rushes, he had -6 yards. I mean, let that sink in for a second. The man was averaging 0.9 negative yards his first 7 attempts. Okay, let me repeat that. He was averaging -0.9 yards per carry his first 7 attempts. Okay, the Steelers were absolutely manhandling the Giants up front, led by Bud Dupree and company. Fabulous game from Bud Dupree. I thought he set the tempo. They got a guy number 92 I had never heard of. He was making plays and all around the football field. We know what TJ Watt is. I told you he's a defensive player of the year candidate coming into the season. He gets a big interception. I thought his interception settled the Steelers down, because up until that point, it felt like the offense had a lot of jitters. Ben was struggling, and they just needed to get on the board. They were down 3-0 because of a careless mistake by the special teams unit. They just needed to get on the board and breathe a sigh of relief. That interception by TJ Watt allowed them to get on the board. Then after they got on the board and cut that deficit from 7-0 to 7-3, they were then able to kind of settle in. And they tied the game up at 3. And once they were able to do that, they kind of settled in a bit. And I felt like they started to get their footing under them. Ben started to get a little bit more comfortable. They still weren't where they needed to be. You missed the field goal. kind of give them some field position. It all started to fall into place once that 2-minute drive happened. Ben got hot, started to have a little bit more confidence in the 5 guys in front of him protecting him. But more importantly, he started to become more accurate throwing the football, more confident in his abilities to put the ball where it needed to be for his guys to make plays. He got in sync with them, got into a rhythm. It was like getting on a bike. Took him a little while, but he finally got back on his bike and started to ride and rode it efficiently and effectively in the second half of this game. And when I look at the Giants, I was actually surprised at how well the defense played for much of this football game. I was expecting at some point for the dam to break and this thing to get out of control. But to their credit, they hung in tough. They got after Ben a little bit. They made it a little difficult on him early in this ball game, gave him some different looks, things that he wasn't comfortable with. And even when the Steelers started to get into a rhythm, they still kept the damage at a minimum. And so I got to tip my cap to this Giants defense tonight for hanging tough. Again, there are no moral victories, and they've got a long way to go, do the Giants. But to have your offense really not clicking, especially Saquon Barkley in the run game, which was non-existent essentially tonight, and to have your quarterback turn it over a couple of times, and that one on the 19-play drive, that was brutal. That was back-breaking because up until that point, you're in this game, it's 16-10. You know, anything in that instance, any points on that drive, and you look like you were poised to go get a touchdown and take the lead potentially pending the extra point. Any points, a field goal there, you're down 3. A touchdown ties the game, extra point gives you the lead. You're sitting in a great position at that point of the game. And then Daniel Jones made a catastrophic mistake. And I get it. Maybe he was trying to get rid of the football. Maybe he saw a guy last minute, tried to get it to him. You got to understand that in that particular situation, you have to protect the football. That's one of his biggest problems for Daniel Jones right now is protecting the rock. You saw him trying to make sure that he didn't fumble because that was one of his biggest bugaboos last season. But the interceptions, I told you, also were a problem. A lot of people overlooked the interceptions because of the high touchdown number, 27. But there were 13 interceptions, and they came in bunches last year against good football teams defensively. He racked up the touchdowns against bad teams, which I can't knock the hustle. Get them when you can. But against the good defensive teams, he struggled mightily last season, and he did it again tonight. And, you know, he had a fast start. You know, the touchdown to Darius Slayton. It's Darius Slayton. I think I called him Steve Slayton earlier. That's the running back that used to play for West Virginia. But he hit Darius Slayton. It's Darius, right? It's Darius, right? Yes, it's Darius. Slayton earlier. I think it's Darius. It might not even be Darius. He hit Slayton. Okay, we're just going to call him Slayton, okay? He hit Slayton on the big ball for the touchdown. And I'm thinking to myself, man, Daniel Jones looks pretty damn impressive. And as the game wore on, I thought he kind of got out of that rhythm that comes with the comfort of Saquon Barkley being able to run the football effectively. Too many times in this game, the Giants found themselves in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 23. I mean, there were times where all they could do was throw an underneath check down or a screen to just punt the football, just to get better position to punt. I mean, there were some really bad situations that they were put in because of, you know, the run game losing. And you know, it's one thing if it's no gain or a loss of 1. These were losses of 3 and 5. I mean, these were some astronomical losses that Saquon Barkley was taking in the backfield. And so it puts you at a distinct disadvantage when your run game is not only not helping, but rather hurting you and putting you in some bad spots. And the Giants really had to try to overcome that. And it doesn't help when Evan Ingram is dropping the football or getting called for OPI. You need guys to help out your young quarterback. And, you know, in certain instances, I didn't think, guys, specifically Evan Ingram, did that tonight. And so it was a much better performance. I'm going to be honest with you, much better performance than I was expecting from the Giants. I thought they were going to come out here and wet the bed, lose this game 33-13, and never really be close. And halfway through the third quarter, these guys were right there with a chance to take the lead. And if not for a great play by Bud Dupree, but maybe a regrettable decision by Daniel Jones to try and throw the football under heavy duress, his best choice there was probably to just eat that one. Take the sack. If you want to be creative, shovel it with your left hand out of bounds. You were outside the pocket. You could have done anything but what you did. And ultimately, that was a backbreaker because the Steelers took that turnover, marched it down the field, got into field goal range, extended the lead out to 2 scores, and ultimately that put the Giants out of reach. And then they put the game away with a final touchdown later on to make it 26-10. The Giants would then later score a touchdown, didn't convert the 2-point conversion, lose the game 26-16. But the Giants are going to be better and more effective running the football. They're shuffling around their offensive line, a lot of new parts. They've got to figure some things out. So that's evident. And the Steelers are a really good defense. Let's not kid ourselves. You saw it tonight. When everything else failed the Steelers, including special teams, and the offense didn't have it going, the defense was the catalyst. They were the mainstay that was able to kind of steady the ship tonight until the offense figured it out and were able to start getting it going. And credit to Benny Snell, too, for coming in and being able to fill the shoes of Connor, who got hurt in this game. Snell was outstanding. He ran physically. He got yards after contact. Did a good job of finding the hole using patience, but once the hole was there, hitting it aggressively. Did have the big fumble. Juju Smith-Schuster, what a hustle play that was. Literally 5 Giants, and this guy is hustling down the field and dives on the football, the lone other Steeler around when that fumble took place. And that's why it always pays to hustle. They're going to definitely give him some kudos in the film room for that one, because if he had not been there, that's Giants football, and all of a sudden the momentum of the game switches because they would have had tremendous field position right around midfield with that recovery. But instead, Juju Smith-Schuster recovers. They later go on and score, and that was essentially all she wrote. So the run game woke up for the Steelers. The pass game, I'm excited about this offense because they're just scratching the surface. Ben is still trying to work his way back. Deontay Johnson looked good tonight after the muff punt and the miscommunication with he and Ben. And honestly, I think Ben went rogue there because if you look at everyone else, they're all blocking. Juju Smith-Schuster was blocking too. So unless that was a signal to Deontay Johnson by himself, hey, I like your situation, your corner's way off, just run up the field 5 yards, give me a stop route, turn around, I'm going to hit you. And everybody else just keep the run that we called. Looked like Ben went rogue and no one else got the message that he was switching it up. That was one of those, run pass options. Ben decided he wanted to throw it and everybody else still was with the run. So Deontay Johnson, all in all, looked good tonight. So did Juju Smith-Schuster. That was a hell of a touchdown by Washington. We've always talked about how this guy turns into a running back when he's built like a running back, and he turns into one when he gets the football in his hands. Well, you saw it on that play, fighting for the end zone. I don't know how the hell he managed to stay on his feet, not have a knee, elbow, or nothing touch the ground, and then muscle his way into the end zone. It's a hell of a play right before halftime. And then, of course, the big play by Chase Claypool down the sidelines. That's as gorgeous a catch as you'll see all weekend long. That was beautiful to get both feet down, secure the rock, going to the ground. Hell of a catch by him. He's going to be a big-time playmaker for this Steelers offense as well. So, and Ebron, don't forget about Easy E. He looks like he's going to fit hand in glove with this offense as well. When they finally get things going offensively, all the weapons Ben could ask for are going to be there at his disposal. They just got to get into a rhythm. The real question becomes, can they stay healthy, and do they have enough bodies up front? With the injury that they sustained tonight, it looks pretty bad. I don't know the extent of it, but it didn't look good. He had the look on his face of a guy that knew his season had come to an end. He was fighting back tears, so that's never a good look. So, that's a situation worth monitoring because they got to be able to protect Ben. Ben was laboring back there. Ben cannot move like he used to. He was never the best athlete, but he is definitely not moving all that well. I mean, he's 38 years old, so you don't move as well when you're that old. And they're going to have to protect Ben. He's a sitting duck back there, essentially. So hopefully the offensive line can hold up. But honestly speaking, the Giants surprised me with the way they played on the defensive side of the football. James Bradberry, I thought, had himself a solid game. That was a good addition to this football team. I thought Jabril Peppers actually had a dynamic game on special teams, gave him a little something there. Almost pop. I thought he was going to go on that one punt return where he got tripped up right at the end. I thought he was going to go for a score there. And, this game could have went in a totally different direction. All the Giants needed to do was make one more big play. The Steelers were reeling, believe it or not. Ben was kind of in his head. He was fighting demons over there trying to, shake off the rust. The run game had come to a screeching halt, especially when Connor got injured and Snell first came in. They still weren't having much success running the football. Offense was kind of stagnant. And the Giants, after that big play, and they took the 10-3 lead, they had all the momentum. And if that Jabril Peppers punt return pops, and all of a sudden, I believe it was still 10-3 at that time. It might have been 10-9. Either way, if that thing goes to the house, this is a different ball game. And I'm not sure the Giants don't find a way to win. But once you could see the tide changing and that touchdown right before the half to give the Steelers the lead, I thought was a momentous change. But, what I really wanted to see was how were the Giants going to respond after halftime? Because Steelers got the football. You score right before the half. Now the Steelers are getting the ball again. Do you just give up another touchdown? And I feel like the Steelers of last year would have given up another touchdown, been down 23-10, and at that point, this thing gets out of hand. And that's what I was expecting. But they instead put their foot down. They gave themselves a chance, and like I said, that 19-play drive, had that turned into a touchdown, had they found a way in the end zone on that possession, this is a different game. The Steelers were reeling, all right? And they needed the defense to step up, and the defense did exactly that. Every time the Steelers needed a play tonight, the defense provided it for them, whether it was T.J. Watt's interception or Cam Hayward's interception, or just getting off the field in a situation. How about the muffed punt, and it's 1st and goal from about the 7-yard line, and the defense stands up and forces a field goal. Every time the Steelers needed it tonight, the defense responded, and that's why they come away 26-16 victors tonight against the New York Giants and go to 1-0 on the season. So, let's get to some comments. I got a couple super chats. I'll knock those down quickly. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Door Gunner writes, hated missing the game yesterday. So pumped for the win. Eagles YouTubers losing their minds. I love it. So excited for the future. Hashtag Ron's plan. Yeah, that was a tough one to miss. I think I asked you yesterday, did you have the NFL game rewind, a great game package? I forgot what they call it. Game Pass. You need it if you don't have it. That was and look, ultimately they're going to show the game again on the NFL Network if you have the NFL Network. I don't know when that's going to happen, whether they'll do it during the season or you'll have to wait till after the season, but they'll replay the game again. You'll be able to see it in some shape, way, or form, but it was a good one, man. Especially watching it real time and having the team fall down 17-0 and then seeing them chip away and ultimately come back and win. That's the best. Got another comment. This one from Big Blue Rising. Thank you for the super chat, Big Blue Rising. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, happy to hear you break down football, Lou. Hashtag LTN. I appreciate that, Big Blue Rising. Happy to be back talking about the game that I love so much. Remember, if you're out there, you want your comment read, you're new to the channel first and foremost, go ahead and sub up to the Louie T Network. And make sure you turn on those notifications after you sub up so you don't miss a thing, because we're going to be going live quite often, whether it's the podcast, whether it's Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night football overtime, or anything else in between. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you turn on those notifications and hit that like button if you're here in the comment section and watching this video. Go ahead and smash that like button and support the Louie T Network. So let's get to the comments. Oh, if you're out there also, you want your comment read, the best way to have it done and the most rapid way to have it done is to super chat. But if you're out there, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. We'll get through as many of these as we can, and then we'll get out of here. So Captain Spartan 04 says, our O-line is already banged up and we just started. It's going to be a long season, and that's what I talked about. I love the weaponry that you've surrounded Ben Roethlisberger with. The real question now becomes, can you stay healthy enough, and do you have enough bodies along the offensive line to keep him protected? Because Ben is no spring chicken. He's not as mobile as he once was. He has to have protection up front in order to be successful. We saw that tonight. At any point when the Giants put pressure on him, Ben looked very uncomfortable, except for the Juju Smith-Schuster touchdown pass where he kind of drifted back and then threw that beautiful loft job to the corner of the end zone towards the pylon, and Juju Smith-Schuster tracked it and secured the score. Anytime they put pressure on him, he looked a little antsy back there. So going to need to be able to protect. You were already without David DeCastro in this game. You lose your right tackle. It's not a good look this early in the season, but we'll see what happens up front for the Steelers. Got another super chat here from Emperor Meech. Thank you for, or excuse me, got a comment from Emperor Meech, who writes, tried to tell other Giants fans, but they did not want to listen. This team is a mess, and those receivers are ass, in my opinion. Well, remember, I said this during the draft, that I was the most disappointed with the Giants, not because of how they used or how the draft turned out as a whole, but rather the lack of resources spent at the receiver position. A lot of Giants fans tried to tell me, well, we got XYZ receiver from Ohio State, undrafted guys. And I'm like, that's the point. They went undrafted for a reason. They snatched up like 3 or 4 undrafted Ohio State wide receivers, and I was just not impressed, And I said, you should have spent one of your draft picks, preferably one of your first 3 draft picks, on a wide receiver to complement, Sterling Shepard, because Shepard himself isn't a number 1. Darius Slayton, even though he had a really good rookie season, he's not a number 1 wide receiver. To me, Shepard is a 2, Slayton is a 3, and you needed a number 1 to make it all come together. And you're out there parading around these guys, trying to be number 1s and number 2s, and they're really 2s and 3s. And so there's a huge void left on this football team, and Evan Ingram has to step up. There's no other way to say it. You can't have drop passes, and we've seen that from him all too often throughout his career. And you can't have the offensive pass interference. You're fast enough. You should be able to separate without pushing off. He's got to be better. They need his production. That's not optional. He has to step up because of the lack of receivers. And yeah, I know they got Golden Tate and he didn't play tonight. Who cares? Golden Tate isn't what he once was. They should have done something at receiver. I thought it was pretty negligent on the part of Dave Gettleman, but I've already made my point about that and my feelings known about the Giants draft and how I felt like they kind of ignored a glaring need on this football team. Captain Spartan 04 says, I'm ready to move on from Connor after this year. Love the story and the 2018 year, but the dude can't stay healthy, and he's just the average back since 18, it feels like. I'm with you. I'd rather just roll with Benny Snell, to be honest with you. I'd roll with Benny Snell, and I like the Samuels guy as a change of pace, third down, jack of all trades kind of guy. But I wouldn't mind going out and getting a smaller change of pace back, a speedster, if you will, because you're still lacking a guy with true home run ability. But honestly speaking, I'm not a huge fan of James Conner either. Love the story, as you said. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You root for the guy, but at the end of the day, he can't stay healthy, and he's solid. He's not game changing. He's not earth shattering or anything like that. He does makes you go, wow. He's just a solid running back, and I think Benny Snell might actually be better than him at this point, but we'll see what happens. Jay Money says, based on week one's results, who do you have winning the division this year? What division do you speak of? Are you talking about the AFC North? Are you talking about the NFC East? I can just give you both. I've already broken down all of this. If you really want to know, there are videos that detail all of this. But the NFC East, I've got the Cowboys winning the division. And the AFC North, I've got the Steelers winning, or the Ravens winning the division. But I do have the Steelers making the postseason this season. With 7 teams getting in, I just don't see how the Steelers are kept out of the postseason if they are able to remain relatively healthy, especially with the way they can play defense. So that's going to do it. I don't see any more comments. I'm going to state this once more. Actually, somewhat impressed with the Giants, even though, they lose this game 26-16. Some of it was the Steelers. Absolutely. The muffed punt after a 3-and-out, essentially. You have the Steelers out of sync offensively, especially Roethlisberger kind of was trying to shake the rust off. And, the Giants hung tough. Got out to a 3-0 lead. You got to find a way to convert that muffed punt into a touchdown. There's no way you need to come out of that situation with a field goal. That was kind of a sign of things to come for the night. But the good teams in the league, they take that mistake and they turn that into 7. You cash that in and you make that team pay for that mistake. Settling for a field goal feels like a little bit of a win for the Steelers in that situation. And then you get the big ball to Slayton, and you take the 10-3 lead at that point, and you got all the momentum, and you really weren't able to build off of that. You weren't able to capitalize. There were opportunities for you to make something happen, and you had great field position for much of the night. That's the thing that's probably the most frustrating if you're a Giants fan, is you had tremendous field position for a vast majority of the night, and really not much to show for it. Really not much to show for it at all. So that's really disappointing if you're the Giants. If you're the Steelers, you say, man, luckily the Giants were our week one opponent, because we weren't sharp at all, but we found a way to win the football game and win it pretty handily in the second half and kind of going away after the interception by Cam Hayward. You were able to pretty much distance yourself from the Giants in this game and win kind of going away. You didn't have to sweat it out down the stretch. So slow start, but a really solid finish by the Steelers as they get it done 26-16. Assist _ says, are the Giants the same this year after the game you just watched? I think they're going to be better. I told you already, I actually like their coach, Joe Judge. I think he's going to instill a different culture in New York that has this team believing that they're going to be better. And I think what's going to be the problem is they just don't have the horses yet. There's just not enough talent on that team. After watching tonight, I'm convinced more now than I was before that there's just not enough talent, especially on the offensive side. I think the defense might be a little bit better than I thought, but I still don't think they've got anyone that scares me in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback. I think that's still a problem. And they're switching to a 3-4 defense. And I'm not sure if they have all of the pieces or not. I think they've got the defensive linemen for it. Not necessarily sure if they have the linebackers for it or not. But that's nor here nor there. They're going to be in their nickel more than they are in their base anyway. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I just don't think they have enough on their football team on either side of the football, specifically offensively, and I think that's what's going to hold them back in 2020. JCamman99 says, what happened to Duck? he got more attention than Josh Allen on Sunday Night Football last year. He got attention because, one, his nickname is Duck. Devlin Hodges, but they called him Duck Hodges. And it was a good story. You were rooting for the guy, but he stunk. He was garbage. Mason Rudolph was trash. Again, Mike Tomlin did arguably one of his best coaching jobs last year, to get that squad to 8-8, the way that offense was set up with those quarterbacks. It's amazing that they were able to get to 8. I think they were 8-6 and in the playoffs before the final 2 games of the season, which they lost, to get to 8-8 and fall out of the playoffs. But that's nor here nor there. Duck Hodges is no more. Oh, man. Emperor Meat says, I know I said the same thing about the wide receivers during the draft, but clowns trying to tell me that Slayton is a number 1 and Shep and Tate are good enough. Nah, I'm not buying that, man. Slayton is good, and he impressed me last year, but he's not number 1 good. Neither is Shepard, neither is Golden Tate at this point of his career. You don't have a number 1 receiver on your team, and that's the problem. Especially when you got a young quarterback, the thing you want to do with a young quarterback is marry him with a number 1 wide receiver if you can and have them grow together. That's what you would really like to do with a young quarterback. Surround him with as much talent as you can, but get him a number 1 because as I've always stated, number 1 wide receivers slot everyone in their proper places. You get a number 1, and the guy that was trying to pose as a number 1 but is really a number 2 gets to actually be a number 2. And the guy that was trying to be a number 2, who's actually a number 3, gets to be a number 3 option. And everything kind of falls into place. When you don't have a number 1, now you got a 2 posing as a 1, a 3 posing as a 2, a 4 posing as a 3. Things get out of whack, and you're asking guys to have to step up against players that they're just not able to beat. I mean, you're going to see elite corners. For instance, you want Stephon Gilmore checking a number 1. If there's no number 1, then Stephon Gilmore can just cancel out your number 2, and now that guy becomes a non-factor. Whereas at least your number 2, if there's a number 1 and Gilmore takes him out the game, well, at least your number 2 still has a chance to eat. But it's a trickle-down effect. Now, Stephon Gilmore is taking away your number 2 option, who's trying to be a number 1, and J.C. Jackson's lighting up your number 2, or who's supposed to be a number 3, and you see where I'm going with this. It just gets out of hand. You need a number 1. You don't currently have one. And any Giants fan that thinks otherwise, they're delusional. And I'm sorry. You don't have a number 1 receiver on your team. But I'm glad you know that. RG3 hashtag says, it looks like the football team leading the NFC East. Yeah, for 1 week. Feels good. Again, it's week 1. You're not going to get me to get overly excited about it. Yesterday was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to more of those this season. But I'm not going to, again, run away and jump off a cliff because of 1 win. It's a long season. I've always said it's a sprint, a marathon, not a sprint. And 1 game doesn't do anything in an NFL season. So, and my man Emperor Meach can attest to this. I remember the year the Giants won the Super Bowl back in 2007. They gave up, I think, 90 points in the first 2 weeks. Gave up like 45 to the Cowboys in week 1 and then like 35 the next week to the Packers. And then they came to Washington and beat us in week 3. And we were up like 14-3 at halftime of that game. And they came back and beat us, salvaged their season, and won the Super Bowl that year as a 6 seed, I believe. They were a 6 seed. Went on the road and beat Dallas, I think, that year. Don't have to start fast to have a great season. But 0-2 is a tough hole to dig yourself up out of. You don't want to be at 0-2 because, again, 0-1, you can overcome 0-1. That's nothing. It's not a big deal. 0-2, the numbers show that the amount of teams making the postseason after an 0-2 start, it drops exponentially once you get to 0-2 after 0-1. So a lot of teams are going to be desperate going into week number 2. And a lot of those teams reside in the NFC East. Luckily enough for us, we're not one of them. For a change. Normally we are one of those teams looking for our first win in week 2. Captain Spartan 04 says, We got the speedster. That's right. Anthony McFarland from Maryland. That's right. Also not scared of Chiefs, but Ravens is a different story. That's family business. It'll be a 12-round boxing match. You shouldn't be afraid of the Ravens. You should be afraid of the Chiefs. Here's why. You know the Ravens. Remember the games against the Ravens? For as good as Lamar Jackson was playing, you guys had the Ravens dead to rights, and you let them off the hook. You let them off the hook. You know how to play the Ravens. You shouldn't be afraid of Lamar Jackson. You've got enough team speed defensively to get after him and make them uncomfortable. Who you should be afraid of are the Chiefs. You don't know them as well, and those guys are scary because they can get to your secondary. See, the Ravens, they've got a speedster in Hollywood, but he's not Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs, they've got so many weapons, and all of them can run for their position. You know, whether you're talking Samuel Watkins, who's a speedster, can run. You're talking, I just talked about Tyreek Hill. And then also, don't forget about their fourth option at receiver, the big tall dude that dropped a couple passes on third. But yeah, you know who I'm talking about, number 11. He can run too. It's a bunch of speed, at least with the Ravens. Not everybody that is fast. They do have Devin Duvernay now, so they did add some more speed to that receiving core. But Willie Snead isn't fast. You know, Miles Boykin is fast, but he's a build-up speed guy. So I think you're going to be fine. Let's see. Let's get to another comment. And you do have Anthony McFarland. I did forget about him. Forgot that you got him. And that's a guy that can definitely run. Gives you a nice change of pace back. It'll be interesting to see. Because for some reason in Pittsburgh, these change of pace guys don't work. I thought Dree Archer was going to be great for you guys. I was wrong. Ron Cole III says, Giants looking bad this year. Hope Washington can dominate. Hashtag HTTWFT. Yeah, the Giants are supposed to be bad. I think they're going to finish in the basement this year. And, you know, I don't think they're going to be terrible in terms of like 3-13 bad. I think they're going to be like 5-11 bad. You know, 4-12, 5-11. I think 4-12 is a little low. I think 5-11 is as bad as they'll do this year. And they may do a little bit better than that. Just depends. We'll see. Captain Spartan 04 says, since I know he won't be on the rookie wall this week, thoughts on Notre Dame rookie Chase Claypool tonight? He made a nice first career catch. Talked about him already. I love Chase Claypool. You know, I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. Got to watch him grow and develop over time. And I think he's only going to get better because he was still raw at Notre Dame. He's going to get better and better and better. That catch tonight, haven't seen him make a catch like that in 3 years at Notre Dame. So he's already developing a skill set that he didn't have. He didn't have that kind of body control at Notre Dame. That would have been out of bounds. Or you only need 1 foot in college football. He probably would have gotten 1 foot in. But to get 2 in, drag the foot, presence of mind to corral the football, then turn your body so that you protect it and it doesn't move, it's a hell of a play. I think he's going to be a big-time target for them because the Steelers, let's face it, they haven't had a big wide receiver, this kind of body, since Martavis Bryant. Like, they haven't had a guy this big in a long time. And they missed that kind of size. And even Bryant wasn't a go up and get it type of guy. He was a deep threat more so than anything else. This is a big target in the red zone that you can force the football to, throw fades and things of that nature to. I think eventually he's going to become a bigger part of the offense. Michael Gaither says, what's good, Louie T? How it be? All by ourselves. Feels good, man. Like I said, feels good. Even if only for 1 week, feels damn good. HHC Lunar says, honestly, as a Giants fan, I know we're not going to be good, but it was good to see them put more effort. See the team put in more effort. Improvement. This was a loss, but it's only up from here. I feel the same way. I'm not a Giants fan, but I looked at this game and kind of like Washington, as a Washington fan, I can relate to. You're just looking for more effort. You're looking for a team that's not going to lay down. Like last year, this game for the Giants, and that's what I thought. That's what I was looking for. But I told you, I'm a Joe Judge fan, and I think he's going to instill a different culture in his team because of his background and who he's been around, I don't think he's going to settle for mediocrity. So he's not going to allow these guys to quit. They're going to fight. Last year, this would have been a 33-13 shellacking. This would have been an embarrassing loss for the Giants. Instead, they fought to the very end in this football game. They could have given up multiple occasions. They didn't. They fought and they gave themselves a chance in this ball game. And honestly speaking, the game was there for them to steal, and they weren't able to make enough plays to get the job done. But that's the mark of a young team with a young coach that's trying to change a culture. You don't know how to win these games. So it's not a surprise that they weren't able to be victorious tonight. But the effort was there. I was actually impressed with the Giants because I was expecting a lot less from them in this football game. I still don't think they have the horses when it's all said and done from a talent standpoint, though. HHC Lunar says, Jones held the football and was much better with not fumbling, but that red zone INT was crushing and cost us the game ultimately. Couldn't agree with you more. Talked about that already. That was the one that changed the game. You're down by 6. You put together a 19-play, 9-minute drive that is absolutely crushing the Steelers. First down after first down, third down conversion after third down conversion, and you get right on the cusp of taking the lead, or at least tying the game, pending an extra point, taking the lead, and then that happens. That is absolutely backbreaking, indeed. HHC Lunar says, Washington football team a year ahead in terms of they're 9-7 and we're 5-11, 6-10. I hope you're right, because I actually think we're a 6-10, 7-9 team. I just think you're a 5-11 team. I do think we're a little bit ahead of you because of our defensive line. That's what puts us ahead of you, which is why it was important that we got Chase Young last year. You know, all the losing that we did not go in vain, because we got the prize that's going to help us expedite the process of getting better and getting Chase Young. That's why Daniel Jones carving us up for 5 touchdown passes, as excruciating as it was to watch it last year, it was a necessary evil and needed to happen. We couldn't afford to win that game. Had we won that game, it would have been counterproductive to what we were ultimately trying to do. Jay Money says, who would you rather have long-term between Daniel Jones and Haskins? Haskins. I'm a Dwayne Haskins guy. I'm biased, though, but I never liked Daniel Jones. I have to admit, he's a little bit better in terms of ahead of schedule where I thought he was going to be at this point. But I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. But he's better than what I thought he was going to be. I have to admit that. So, but same thing about Dwayne. I wasn't the biggest Dwayne Haskins fan either. You know, the guy that I was in love with in that particular draft is playing right now in Drew Lock. That's the guy I wanted. So, I would take Haskins, though. Captain Spartan 04 says, the Chiefs, I feel like we can match up weapon for weapon. I ain't scared. The Ravens know our defense, and that's the difference between the two. But you almost beat the Ravens last year. I don't see you beating the Chiefs. Like, and you know your team. Every time you tell me something about your team, 9 times out of 10, you're right. So if you tell me you feel confident more so against the Chiefs than the Ravens, I'm listening. But I'm telling you right now, I'd take you in a game versus the Ravens before I took you in a game versus the Chiefs. But you might be right. You might be right. Assist _ says, Haskins is better than Jones if Haskins gets protected. We're going to see. You know, time will tell. You know, arguing about it is really inconsequential at this point. These guys were drafted in the same year. They play in the same division. They play against the same teams, essentially. We're going to see. We're going to see. At the end of the day, we're going to see which one of these guys turns out to be better. CGM87, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. CGM87 writes, so the Nationals are in last place and the football team is in first. Only in 2020, LOL. I think Ron will turn us around in 3 to 4 years. Great content. Bigger sample size in baseball, obviously. But I'm a Braves fan anyway, so my team's in first place, so I can't relate. But you won the World Series last year, so you know I kid. But in all actuality, one game, we're in first place. Be excited, but also be cautiously optimistic. I always stress this to you guys, and I'm stressing it now more than ever because now you have a reason to really believe, and that would cause some of you to get drunk off of the Kool-Aid. And I just want you guys to sip slow. Some of you are just guzzling away, and you're going to get your feelings hurt. And I really don't want to see that happen. Anyhow, HHC Lunar says, Haskins, Jones are both good, end of story. I think I feel the same way. I think Jones is a lot better than I thought he was going to be. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. No more comments. No more super chats. Got another game. We'll be back later on tonight to talk about the nightcap Titans at Broncos. Interested to see how my guy Drew Lock does tonight. He's going to be down a big weapon. Cortland Sutton not playing. I didn't expect him to. But there are so many weapons out there. He should be just fine. The real question is, can the offensive line protect him against a stout Tennessee Titans defensive front? We shall see. In any event, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing here on the Louie T Network. And hit that like button if you enjoy the content. Also, don't forget, I've got bonus coverage on Patreon. Become a patron so that you don't miss NFL peak performers or the NFL rookie wall. Again, you're a Washington fan. We're breaking down film every Tuesday on Patreon. Become a patron so you don't miss a thing. In any event, we'll be back once more tonight to wrap up week number 1 in the National Football League. I am one game away from going 13-3, and I must say that is a hell of a week for not really knowing, but your man always knows. I'm looking to finish strong, see if the Titans get it done. It wouldn't be shocking if the Broncos took them down, however. But nonetheless, I'll see you guys a little bit later on. Enjoy the game. You know I will, and then we'll be back to break it all down here on the Louie T Network. See you then. Have a good one.
Louie T Network.